Welcome to the rocketry module. In this module you will, after going through the multimedia presentation and answering the questions, so make sure you've done that first, you will actually go through and build your rocket, which later on in the semester we will launch as a class. It's really fun. They go really far and we use compressed air to launch the rockets. They take this silly thing off and get started. First thing you're going to want to do is cut out your body tube, also known as the fuselage. So let's get that cut out first. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but cut along the lines as close as possible. Also, all of your scraps, make sure that ends up in the trash can, because a lot of times it ends up on the floor. Okay, let's put the rest of this stuff aside. Then we have our body tube. You can build your rocket either on a rocket stand like this with a, I think this is a 3/4 PVC pipe, or you can actually build it with a pipe by itself, but it might help you to actually use a stand. But if we're out of stands, you might just have to make do. You want to get the tube wrapped around here. One thing you can actually do is find a 3/8 dowel in your module to kind of pre-stress the paper, and that'll make it a little bit easier for you to wrap the body tube around the PVC pipe. You kind of just pre-stressed it a little bit, and that'll help it to actually stay on the PVC pipe. Get yourself a little piece of tape. I actually need a few pieces of tape. I'll get 3 to start with. And we actually want to get it wrapped around, not super tight, but not loose either. So get that thing snug on there. I think I'll start with the center, and then I'll put one at the bottom. Okay, we're just taping it, paper together, and go ahead and get one at the top as well. Okay. Looks pretty good. All right. The next thing we want to do is we want to actually get our pressure cap installed. Now, we don't want to actually tape the paper to the PVC pipe, because this rocket is going to come off, right? Here's my rocket. Of course, it's cut in half, but you can see that you want the rocket to actually come off of the PVC pipe so it can be launched. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut that pressure cap out. Now the pressure cap is important to do or to install well, because a lot of the pressure coming out of our launcher, it's compressed air, right? Like I said. So that compressed air is going to be putting a lot of pressure on the rocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a piece of tape that's about twice as long as the pressure cap, twice the diameter. Just kind of stick it on there like that so that we can actually install it. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit here, not too close, but zoom in a little bit so we can see the pressure cap being installed. Okay, so we're going to kind of, and then let's get another piece of tape. You may even actually want to stand up for this. Get your other piece of tape across. Okay. I'm going to put another piece of tape. And maybe just even one more. Whoopsie. Tape sometimes will split on you, so if that happens, just kind of tear it off so it's one piece again. Get all that tape back in all the old stuff back in the trash can. Now we're going to wrap it all the way around to make sure that it's very secure. So we're going to go all the way around. Okay, and then rub that on really well. Okay, so that looks like it's going to be able to withstand a lot of air pressure when we launch the rocket. All right, next step is to do the nose cone. Just go ahead and cut that out. That aside. Now, one thing you can do on the nose cone to make it a little bit easier to roll into a conical shape is to get some scratch paper. Okay, I just got some from the shelf where all the worksheets are. Let's just kind of fold that over so we have multiple layers. Just folding it in fourths. Put your nose cone on top. Now you could use a ruler for this, or if you've got a really steady hand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push really hard on these lines to pre-stress the paper to hopefully help it to want to roll more easily. So I'm just kind of pre-stressing the paper, tracing the lines. Like I said, you could use a ruler for this, and you could use a ballpoint pen, which might actually even work a little bit better than a pencil. And it's going to help that nose cone to roll nicely. You can see it's already starting to curl up a little bit. Pre-stressing the paper. So not too sharp of a pencil, but a fairly sharp pencil to actually get in there and pre-stress the nose cone. You don't have to do this if you figure out how to get it to roll without this, that's fine. Alright, last but not least. So, yeah, it's kind of helped a little bit to get it to roll a little bit easier. So here's your objective. So let's zoom out so that we can see the entire rocket here. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to just roll it. You want to get it to fit the rocket. You want it to not be too skinny or too narrow in diameter. You want it to fit just over your rocket, right? Just about like that. Okay, that'll work. You might want to also have another piece of tape handy. I'm going to try to see if I can tear this off without moving it, or have somebody help you since you're working with a partner. Okay, let's test that. We can always, whoopsie, untape it a little bit and readjust it. But you know what? I'm pretty happy with that, because what we're going to end up doing is putting tape over the whole thing anyway. Alright, so we got our nose cone. You're going to move over to the far side of your module and tear off some tissue. It's actually toilet tissue. Okay, and you're going to start to stuff the nose cone. That's to give it a little bit of weight, but also some rigidity. Okay, so I'm shoving that up in there. Looks like I'm going to need another piece. And about like that. That'll work. Just play around with how much you need. I may actually get just a tiny bit more to put up in there. Alright. Tear that in half. Don't make it too much. Okay, that actually looks like that's probably going to be just right. Okay, so now we've got that tissue in there. We're going to attach the nose cone. I'm going to get some tape ready ahead of time, so I'm not fumbling with the masking tape. That piece ready to go. Just stick it there on the edge of the bench there. Alright, now we want to try to get it straight. You don't want it crooked, right? You want to get it as straight as possible. And proceed to tape on your nose cone. Okay. As you're kind of rotating it around, you can kind of see if that looks pretty straight. Yeah, it's decent. It's decent. Okay. Now what we're going to do is wrap the entire rocket with tape. So this entire rocket. And for this, you don't want to get too much tape on there. What you want to do is you want to kind of overlap it about 1/8 of an inch or so as you come around. If it's a little bit awkward for you to hold the roll, what you can do is just tear off a piece. Might be a little bit easier for you to work with, and then kind of wrap it that way. Now it looks like I'm probably going to go ahead and go over my my nose one more time because I'm not super happy with the way that's wrapping, but at least it'll give me a first coat. Start. All right. Okay, so I'm going to actually go back on that. Quiet on the set, please. Thank you. Get my little helper over there filming. All right, so let's try that again here. Kind of take your time. Kind of laying it down as we go. Okay, so now that we're down the nose, that's probably going to be your hardest part there. And if we need to, we could even go back again. I think it's going to be a lot easier now to actually wind for the body tube. Now, as you're winding that, you don't want to make it too tight on the PVC pipe, or guess what? You won't be able to get it on the launcher, because the launcher has a PVC pipe about the same size. All right, so we're overlapping about 1/8 of an inch or so. Kind of testing it to make sure I'm not winding it too tightly. Okay, oops, I'm getting a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch, so you want to try to keep that about 1/8 of an inch all the way down. You can kind of carefully unpeel it to a certain extent and go back around if you notice that it's not 1/8 of an inch overlap. Speed things up a little bit for you guys so that we can get on to the rest of it. But you definitely want to take your time on this so it's nice and even, nice and aerodynamic. It's not, your tape's not all wrinkly or bunched up. Kind of go back up around there. I missed my overlap, so that's all right. And you know what? I kind of missed big time over here, so I'm going to go ahead and re-wrap up here. I'm using a little bit of a different technique. I'm actually rotating the tape instead of the rocket, but you guys just experiment with what works best for you. All right, and then simply just tear it off. All right. Okay, so I got actually overlapped a little bit too much down here and the tape was sticking. So actually I can just kind of come in here and just trim off that tape that was sticking. My rocket's a little on the snug side. You don't want yours quite that tight, so when you're wrapping, don't wrap quite that much. All right, well anyway, we'll go ahead and continue with this. Next step is to install your fins. I'm going to use the fin guide and talk a little bit about how the fin guide works. Get that all cut out. So what the fin guide allows you to do is if you want to do a 2-fin rocket, you're going to wrap this around, tape it, and install your fins at the 2s. If you're doing a 3-fin rocket, again, you're going to wrap it around the tube, and wherever you have a 3, that's where your fin's going to go, okay? And then a 4, and so forth. So let's go ahead and put our fin guide on. Just get that wrapped around here at the base, all the way around. We'll get that taped on there. And that's just going to be our guide. Okay, if you can't see through the masking tape, this particular masking tape is thin, but I know we might use thicker masking tape as well. But I could still see my numbers. So I'm going to go with the 3-fin, because the problem with the 2-fin is you may have researched fin designs, I'm not quite sure, but the problem with a 2-fin is your directional stability. It might kind of act like a wing of an airplane, and it might actually get a little bit of lift going, and it won't have good directional stability. So the 3-fin cancels out any of that wing effect, because the 3 fins cancel each other out. So I'm going to go ahead and get three fins cut out, and we'll just recycle the 4th fin that we're not going to use. And last but not least, get that 3rd fin. Okay, so there's our 3 fins. Here's what you want to do. Take your fin, fold it in half. Okay. Matter of fact, why don't you do it to all of them? Get them all folded in half. You might be able to just cut these all at the same time so they're all consistent. And a little bit of hot glue here stuck to from structural engineering. Okay. And let's go ahead and stack them all together. Just make sure it's open, open, and open. I didn't fold that one very good, did I? Let me refold that and get it quite folded in the middle. Okay. Open, 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 because what we're going to do is we're going to actually cut the angle of the fins so they're all consistent. So if you stack them up like that, you got to make sure it's open here, open here, open here, or it's going to get messed up. And I'm just going to cut them all at the same time, and they'll all be pretty consistent. So there's my 3 fins, and we want to attach it to the fuselage. So here's what you're going to do to attach it. You're going to see the little, let's kind of zoom in a little bit on that so that you can kind of see, not too close, but that little, those lines there in the fin, we're going to fold it along that same line. So go ahead and zoom back out so we can see how that folding process goes. So I'm going to fold it up to that one of those lines on one side, flip it over and fold it the other. Okay, we're going to do that to all the fins, but you can see now we actually have some surface area now where we can actually tape the fin to the fuselage. So let me go and get those other ones folded over. So you can design your fins differently. Most of them will want to be a little bit of an aerodynamic shape, as you'll see if you research different fin designs on the computer, which you could do. You could just Google different fin designs, see what you come up with. Maybe you'll find something that works a little bit better. But you'll find that most of the fins that you see will be of this shape. All right, so I'm doing 3 fin, right? So it's going to get me a little bit of tape ready to go. A few little pieces here. All right, and right after 3, and we can go ahead and just tape right on top of the fin guide. That's fine. You can move it up a little bit too if you want. Maybe I'll put it right up above the fin guide. But positioning too is kind of up to you. Get that tape on there. Matter of fact, you could even do this. It's easier for you. Kind of get it taped on the fin first. You could even do it on both sides. Carefully lift it off the table, and we could do it that way. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Make sure it's nice and straight. Okay. Let's go ahead and put the other ones on. We're going to end up covering these fins with a little bit of tape just to give them some structural integrity. Get this one on there. Installed at the other 3. Make sure it's even with the other one. Okay, make sure it's nice and straight up along the fuselage of the rocket. So far it's looking pretty good. And we'll get our other last one on. And pull that off the table carefully. And we'll get that one all lined up just right as well. So what you can do now, sorry about that. You want to make sure that the fins kind of cancel themselves out. Now it looks like it is pretty good there, canceling each other out. You don't want it to create like a wing effect. So it looks pretty decent. So now what we're going to do is just go ahead and tape over the fins just to give them a little bit more strength. Okay. Especially here at the top. Right around here, it's not very secure. So we'll come up in here and quiet on the set, please. Thank you. All right, with that, gonna come up here and get that. My tape kind of got a little messed up here. That's secure. And we're almost done, so it's just getting those fins nice and secure. What I may even do too is kind of I'm going to wrap it one time around here just to kind of give this area a little bit of strength and secure those fins on there. So pretty good. Alright, now we want to actually just coat the fins with some tape. Not exactly sure if there's a specific technique for this, but maybe I'll try to go like this. Like I said, there's no real necessarily right or wrong way of doing this. Kind of just fold it over. I might need to trim that piece off. That seems to work pretty well. Where it's actually going over both parts of the fin, and I'm wrapping it over like that. Yeah, I like that. That looks pretty good. So you may find too that it looks like maybe I should have waited to wrap it around, because I could have, well, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. And I think what I'll do is I'll just coat the fins. Maybe I'll try wrapping all the way around that way. I'll make it a little bit longer. And then I can just trim it with scissors. So we'll go like here, kind of wrap that over, go up, oops, go up and around over here. You want it to be flat, so if it's not flat, you might have to try some different techniques. Pushing it flat, wrapping it over. Yeah, that rocket is snug. I don't want it too snug, it won't fit on the launcher. So, worst case scenario, if you build your rocket and it's too snug, what we could actually do is we'll cut it, open it up a little bit, and then we'll retape it. You might actually have to slice all the way up and retape the rocket if it's too snug. You don't want to see any paper. You want it to be completely covered with the masking tape. So just go through and double check. Make sure everything's covered in masking tape. Alright. I'm actually going to go through and trim it a little bit. Trim that. Trim this one. Snug, 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 snug. You can see the actually the rocket collapse in on itself a little bit. Now we can actually just come through here and just trim that off a little bit. Make it nice and neat there. The fins here, looks like it's a little bit uneven. And simply trim those. Carefully you don't cut the fuselage. This one's a little bit lower, but oh well. Alright, so you just double check it to make sure it's to your liking. Rub everything down really well. What I like to do is have you guys put your first and last name maybe on the fin using a ballpoint pen. Because the tape is sometimes different pens won't write on the rocket. You could try using a pencil. And what I might actually do is just one more little step here. Since it's going to be sliding on, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap that really quick with a little bit of masking tape. And then we're going to call this rocket done. Wrap, wrap, wrap. Rub it, rub it, rub it. Press it in. And we're good to go. So you may want to actually have your fins come all the way down to the bottom. Different things, move them up a little bit. Okay, there are some things that we could experiment with center of gravity. Okay, you do want a little bit of the weight to be a little bit forward of the rocket. Some tests you can do for that to do some tweaks. But there you go, completed rocket.